Hey guys, this is Keyboard again, voicing for the King of Conflict in the comments section, Edgy Rick. This video is going to be on how Wolfgang works. So on the screen you're looking at, there's annotations to the basics, how his health works. And then there's healing, how do his mechanics impact healing items. Healing attached to food, how do his mechanics impact healing from food. Optimal order and timing to apply healing items, how can I exploit his mechanics to get more health. Taking damage, how do his mechanics impact damage taken. Summary and impact on gameplay decisions, and that'll just be a quick summary. Just use the annotations to find whatever matters to you. So the basics. Wolfgang has 3 hunger-determined states, Mighty, Regular, and Wimpy. Mighty activates at 225 hunger, remains active between 220 and 300 hunger. His maximum health is determined by his hunger in this state. His maximum health is between 200 and 300. Between 220 and 225 hunger, his health will be about 200. For each 1 hunger gained above 225, his maximum health will increase by 4/3, or about 1.33. Similarly, for each 1 hunger lost, his maximum health will decrease by 4/3, or about 1/3. Examples, 300 hunger equals 300 maximum health, 297 hunger is 296 max health, or 228 hunger is 204 max health. His current health will scale to match his new maximum health, i.e. if his current health is 50% of his maximum, it will remain 50% of his new maximum health at all higher values of hunger. So for example, with 100 out of 200 health, if he eats food with no healing on it such as uncooked berries until 300 hunger, he will have 150 out of 300 health. The percent is unchanged. As time passes, his current and maximum health will decrease. So at 262.5 hunger, he will have 125 out of 250 health. And at 225 hunger, he will be back at 100 out of 200 health. Okay, so regular Wolfgang. This activates at 220 hunger when triggered by decreasing hunger. Activates at 105 hunger when triggered by increasing hunger. Remains active between 100 and 225 hunger. His maximum health is 200 in this state. Wimpy. This activates at 100 hunger, remains active between 0 and 105 hunger. His maximum health is determined by his hunger in this state. His maximum health is between 150 and 200. And for each 2 hunger lost below 100, his maximum health will decrease by 1. Similarly, for each 2 hunger gained, his maximum health will increase by 1. So for example, 100 hunger equals 200 max health, 98 hunger equals 199 max health, and 2 hunger equals 151 max health. His current health will scale to match his new maximum health, i.e. if his current health is 50% of his maximum, it will remain 50% of his new maximum health at all values of hunger. So for example, with 100 out of 200 maximum health, if he doesn't eat then at 50 hunger, he will have 87.5 out of 175 maximum health. And finally, at 0 hunger, he will have 75 out of 150 maximum health. If he then eats a non-healing food, like uncooked berries, until 100 or more hunger, his health will again be 100 out of 200 maximum. The percent is never changed. Alright, so let's talk about healing. Healing items superficially function the same on Wolfgang as they do on other characters. All things remaining equal, a honey poultice will heal Wolfgang for 30 HP regardless of his hunger. However, due to the nature of his hunger, determined maximum health, healing items actually function radically different on Wolfgang. To explain this, let's make regular form the meter by which we measure his actual health, because this form maintains 200 maximum health for a range of 125 hunger, both more consistent and for longer than either other form. Assertion 1. You should never heal while in this mighty state. Example, Wolfgang has 300 hunger and 150 out of 300 health. Okay. If he were to enter regular form like this, his health would be 100 out of 200, or 50%. So let's say he uses 1 honey poultice and 1 healing salve, which is a total of 50 healing, bringing him up to 200 out of 300 health. If he now enters regular form, below 220 hunger, his health will be 133 out of 200, meaning he effectively only healed 33 health from a honey poultice and healing salve. This means his healing was only 2/3 as effective as it could have been on any other character. Assertion 2. You should always heal while in his wimpy state. So, for example, Wolfgang has 0 hunger right now, and he has 75 out of 150 health. If he were to enter regular form like this, his health would be 100 out of 200, so 50%. So let's say he uses 1 honey poultice and 1 healing salve, so that would be a total of 50 healing, bringing him up to 125 out of 150 health. If he now eats non-healing food and enters normal mode above 105 hunger, his health will be 166, meaning he effectively healed 66 health from a honey poultice and healing salve. This means his healing was 33% more effective than it would have been on any other character. Now, if you were to eat non-healing foods until 300 hunger, he would have 250 out of 300 health, a full 50 more than the previous case. So as we can see, using the same base 50 healing items at his 2 extremes, we see a gap of 33.33 HP in his regular form, and a huge 50 HP difference from Wimpy to Mighty, which is double. Don't heal when Mighty, always heal while Wimpy for effectively double the value. Healing attached to food. So thus far we have excluded healing values attached to food as it makes the math a bit easier to follow. Luckily, this is actually very easy to explain. The healing value of a food is applied to Wolfgang before the hunger value. This means visually, Wolfgang will always heal more than the listed heal value of a food if his maximum HP also changes. So, Wimpy eating. Case, Wolfgang has 0 hunger and 50 out of 150 health. He eats a bacon and eggs, so that's 75 hunger and 20 health right there. His stats are now 75 hunger and 87.5 out of 187.5 health. This represents 37.5 healing rather than the usual 20 of bacon and eggs. If he were to enter regular form, his health would be 93.33 out of 200. So visually, 1 bacon and eggs represents 43.33 healing. The percents never change, however. This number merely looks relatively huge as it's coupled with his current health scaling to match his maximum. Had he not eaten that, his health in regular form would be 66.66 out of 200. Thus, the bacon and eggs still effectively healed 30. Thus, it remains 33.33% more effective as demonstrated earlier with non-food healing items. So, regular and mighty eating. Case, Wolfgang has 225 hunger and 100 out of 200 health. He eats a bacon and eggs, which is, again, 75 hunger and 20 health. And his stats are now 300 hunger and 180 out of 300 health. This represents 30 healing rather than the usual 20 of bacon and eggs. If you were to enter regular form again, his health would be 120 out of 200. This is consistent with the above as he effectively healed the 20 health before leaving his regular form, so nothing changed. Mighty eating. Case, Wolfgang has 262.5 hunger and 125 out of 250 health. He eats a pierogi, which is plus 37.5 hunger and plus 40 health, and his stats are now 300 hunger and 200 out of 300 health. This represents 75 healing rather than the usual 40 of pierogi. If you were to enter regular form again, his health would be 133.33 out of 200, meaning the pierogi effectively only healed 33.33 instead of its 40. This is consistent with the above as the penalty for healing while mighty decreases as Wolfgang approaches 200 maximum health. Alright, so let's talk about the optimal order and timing to apply healing items. So as we've demonstrated, you will always want to heal while in the wimpy state and as close to 0 hunger as possible. First, if you will use non-food healing items, spider glands, healing salves, or honey poultice, then use them before eating any food. Next, it is optimal to eat any single healing food and then wait until you approach 0 hunger again before eating your next healing food. However, that's not always viable or safe, as it will leave you at a low health value and constantly on the brink of starvation. And that would be pretty stressful. So finally, if you need to fill your stomach, aka go mighty, and want to gain the optimal amount of health in the process, then you need to do some quick math if you want to heal an extra point or 2 of health. You need to optimize your order in such a way that you heal the most while at low hunger. A quick and dirty cheat sheet using only a handful of very common foods would be to eat in this order: trail mix, blue caps, pierogi/fish sticks, jerky, honey nuggets, dragon pie, honey ham, bacon, and eggs. However, the order only gives a tiny bit more health, i.e. eating pierogi and then jerky gives 0.37 more health than eating jerky than pierogi from zero hunger when scaled up to regular form, and this value diminishes even more as hunger increases. So not a massive difference. Alright, so let's talk about taking damage. To save space, we'll put both Wimpy and Mighty here. The math is identical to that of the healing math above, but reversed. Thus, when taking damage near 300 hunger, Wolfgang will only represent 66.66% of that damage when he reverts back to regular form. And when taking damage near 0 hunger, Wolfgang will represent 133.33% of that damage when he reverts back to regular form. Therefore, Wolfgang receives 33% less damage when full and receives 33% more damage when empty.